So, good morning, good afternoon if you're elsewhere in the world, or even good evening. So, welcome to Kagyu, Samye, Dzong, Edinburgh, and to the next session. This is the third session in the second season of Milarepa's songs. So this is also going to be featuring Rechungpa. And as you know, we've already done 2 sessions with Rechungpa, and this will be the third and the last one. Now we could do many, many more because Milarepa and Rechungpa were together for most of Rechungpa's life since he was a child. So there's many, many songs for you to explore. But I'm going to just limit it to 3 because then we can move on to another aspect, which will be with Gampopa. So, first of all, let's say the introductory prayers, the supplication to the root Lama, and then to the Vajradhara lineage or Dorji Chang prayer. O glorious, precious root Lama, above my head on a lotus moon seat, you care for me with great kindness. Please bestow the siddhis of body, speech, and mind. Great Vajradhara Tilo Naro Marpamila Dharma Lord Gampopa, knower of the 3 times, omniscient Karmapa, holders of the 4 elder and 8 younger lineages, Drikantaklung and the Salpa, glorious Drukpa, and so forth. Masters of the profound path of Mahamudra, to the Dakpo instruction lineage, the peerless protectors of wanderers. Kagyu Lamas, I supplicate you, I uphold your lineage. Grant the blessings of your liberating lives. Just as revulsion is taught to be the legs of meditation, this meditator clings not to food and riches, and has severed the ties to worldly life. Grant your blessings for detachment from honor and gain. Just as devotion is taught to be the head of meditation, this meditator constantly prays to the Lama, who opens the vault of pith instructions. Grant your blessings for uncontrived devotion to Wellforth. Just as non-distraction is taught to be the body of meditation, this meditator simply remains without altering the fresh essence of whatever thought arises. Grant your blessings for parting from the concept of meditation. Just as thought is taught to be in essence Dharmakaya, for this meditator unhindered manifestation dawns. Nothing whatsoever dawning as whatever may appear. Grant your blessings to realize inseparable samsara nirvana. May I never in future lives part from authentic lamas, and embracing ever the glory of Dharma. May I perfect the qualities of the levels and paths, and thus swiftly attain the state of Vajradhara. So, we're going to be looking at a particular chapter in the 1100 Song book of Milarepa. As you can see, it's quite big, quite heavy tome, but full of just the most amazing songs, and it's really hard to pick them out because they're all brilliant. Sometimes it's quite a mundane consideration, like how long it is and if you can fit it into this short space. But when you're reading it for yourself, you don't have to make those kind of considerations. You can just read through the whole lot, and they are fairly sequential, although they jump around in terms of geography and where they were and things like that. So this particular chapter that we're going to study today is set in the Ramding Sky Cave. A sky cave in Tibet is a cave where, when you're in it, when you look out, all you can see is the sky through the opening, so that you can't see any other land or anything like that. Actually, it was Lama Yeshe that told me that, because when we were sitting in the cave on Holy Island, that's a sky cave. You know, I mean, you just see the mouth of the cave and then the sky. So it's very, very conducive for retreat and for meditation. So we're going to look at each song in turn and try to decipher some of the meaning. And I'll read the bits of narrative in between, so it sets it for you, and you know the circumstances in which these songs came about, because they all came about as a result of something, or somebody saying something, or being mistaken about something, or something happening, some situation. Much like the Buddhist teachings came about, they were all always in answer to a particular circumstance or question. So, Namo Guru. When the Jetsun Milarepa, along with Rechungpa, Drigomrepa, and a few other disciples, was staying at Ramding Sky Cave, Rechungpa and Drigomrepa had much discussion about the view of meditation of Naropa and Milarepa. The Jetsun said to them, "Listen to my song and then continue your discussion." And he sang this song of realization. So we can imagine there's a Milarepa with some of his disciples, main chief of whom was Rechungpa at that time, and Rechungpa and Drigomrepa are talking about the meditation of the founding fathers, which is Naropa, who was the teacher of Marpa of Milarepa's teacher. And Milarepa, who was, these are extremely high masters, and they were discussing their meditation, which might seem to be a little bit presumptuous, possibly. I'm just saying. So, what does Milarepa say? What delight! Being free of conventional terms is so joyful. The kind Lord Guru sits at my crown. Realization inseparable from his continually dawns in my mind. You two teacher meditators who engage in analysis, if your words don't come from your inner understanding, you're just making noise and inflating your pride. Cutting imputations from within. Is that not called the view free of extremes, using scripture and reasoning is a great ornament to that. Concepts dissolving into Dharmakaya, is that not called self-arisen meditation? Connecting it with experience is a great ornament to that. Purifying the 6 collections in their own state, is that not called the conduct of equal taste? Connecting it with the proper time is a great ornament to that. The arising of the experience of bliss emptiness, is that not the point of the whispered lineage instructions? Connecting it with the 4 abhishekas is a great ornament to that. Differentiating clear appearance and emptiness, is that not called the stages of the path? Connecting it with the path signs is a great ornament to that. Carrying one's mind to the point of its exhaustion, is that not called Buddhahood in one lifetime? Connecting it with the 4 kayas is a great ornament to that. One who has scripture, logic, and the Upadeshas, is that not called the guru who holds the lineage? Being connected with compassion is the guru's great ornament. Faithful ones who have great compassion, are those not called students who are suitable vessels? Connecting them with devotion is a great ornament to that. One gains resolution about the mind through the view. Meditation then takes this and brings it to experience. Through conduct, one brings it to its completion. Its actualization is the 4 kayas. The result is asserted in terms of mind. Realization is seeing it all comes down to one thing. Now, this is an extremely high view. You have to understand that Rechungpa and Milarepa and the disciples were already at a quite high level. But they're not too high to be spoken to in sort of very kind of precise words and from a very, very high view. So, I just said that maybe they were being a bit presumptuous talking about the meditation of Milarepa and Maitreya. You could also say that we're being a bit presumptuous talking about these songs from our level, yes. But I think we can only begin where we begin, and it would be a shame to not look into them because we don't feel we're up to it. So we'll never get up to it if we don't explore it and the inner meaning as far as we're able. And we can't go further than we can go. Well, but we can, but in stages. So don't worry if you can't get every single detail. We're not at that level. But we try, we explore and not just study, but apply. Because we'll never get any further if it's only, he says this actually, it's not just about study, it's about, that's just the beginning. Then you need to reflect, then you need to meditate, then you need to experience. And that's one of the main things that he's talking about. Excuse me. Anyway, we'll do our best and just go through it stage by stage. So the first verse, as always, he pays homage to his guru, to Marpa. This is so important. It's not just a sort of social etiquette that, I must, name check my Lama. It's not that. It's about reminding the others as well how important, first and foremost, it's through the Lama, your root Lama, that all realization is possible. So, and he shows them that, not just by saying it, but by paying homage every time he teaches. What delight, he finds great delight in it. Being free of conventional terms is so joyful. So I think that's because he's heard how the argument was going, or the discussion between Milarepa and Rechungpa was going, and they probably sort of outdoing each other with some sort of jargon, spiritual jargon or whatever, or clever terms. I suspect that we weren't privy to it, but can sort of it's implied in the way Milarepa talks. And he's saying, being free of these conventional terms and sort of concepts and things is so joyful. He doesn't have to, stress his brain with all that. The kind Lord Guru sits at my crown. What could be better than that? What could be more informing than that? Realization, inseparable from Marpa's, continually dawns in my mind. He's got the real thing. He's not trying to think, is it like this, is it like that? It's direct from Marpa. It's, like being poured into him continually, fresh and perfect. You two teacher meditators, I can just imagine this tone of voice. Maybe I'm putting too much into this. You two teacher meditators, because they do teach people. Their level is such that they can teach. They can share what they know, and with his permission, and they do meditate. And compared to the majority of people, their meditation is probably pretty good. You two teacher meditators who engage in analysis, they're analysing the meditation of Milarepa and Naropa and how it might be this or that. But if your words don't come from your inner understanding, you're just making noise and inflating your pride. This is what we hear in academia a lot, don't we? Not just in academia, but this is the way people are, that we try to impress each other by using long words or very arcane and esoteric words and things like that. And we're just inflating our own pride and making a noise. It has no meaning. It's just, what they say, empty vessels make most noise. Actually, empty ones probably would be a good thing to be. It's the ones that are full of themselves that make the most noise. So, cutting imputations from within, is that not called the view, free of extremes? So we need to look within ourselves. This is where we need to make our understanding, not about how did Naropa think, or how did this or that one think. Of course we can study them and be inspired by them, but the main thing that we're working on is our own mind, our own understanding. And so we need to cut these imputations from within ourselves. Is that not called the view, free of extremes of it's like this or it's like that? And when we do that, then using the scriptures and reasoning is a great ornament to that. That's the proper place for them. You need to look at it. We all need to look at ourselves, work with ourselves, and then we use the scriptures, such as the teachings or the commentaries of Naropa or Milarepa, that then becomes an ornament to that. And so using the scriptures and their reasonings is a great ornament to that. But we have to start with who we are and proceed in that way, not take stuff from outside and then try to stuff it in somehow. That's not going to work. Concepts dissolving into Dharmakaya. Is that not called self-arisen meditation? Connecting it with experience is a great ornament to that. So whatever concepts we have, in our ordinary life, we're full of concepts about this is how it is, that's how it is. But when we connect with it, when we look into it, those concepts just dissolve into the Dharmakaya. The Dharmakaya means like the body of truth. And is that not called self-arisen meditation? Not from outside, but from your own experience. connecting it with experience is a great ornament to that. So really saying, keep it real. You're not saying you shouldn't study other people's things, but it has to come from within, and you need to make that connection from how you are. So there's a meeting of minds, as it were. Not you're just stuffing what somebody says in without really having it, it's a meeting, it has to be a meeting, really. Purifying the 6 collections in their own state, is that not called the conduct of equal taste? Connecting it with the proper time is a great ornament to that. So, purifying the 6 collections. So the 6 collections are the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, the mind. So basically, all the senses and everything that the senses do. It's like that's the 6 collections in their own state. So we have to purify those, see how they truly are, not just their superficial, I can see that over there or something, but the way we see things at the moment is through this kind of deluded way of seeing. So it's not saying that these senses are deluded, it's that we don't use them in the proper way. We don't they're not purified. So there's not that there's something wrong with them, it's our mind that's at fault here. And the way we use them is not, it's with the way we see them is not pure. Because we're coming at everything from this deluded mind. So you don't have to get rid of these things. You don't have to say, oh no, I mustn't look, or I mustn't smell, or I mustn't, mustn't use. But they need to be purified, and then they light up everything. They're not a cause of delusion. In fact, the second line says, is that not called the conduct of equal taste? It's when you go beyond what's good and bad. I like the way that looks, I don't like the way that looks. So you're using your eye, you're making a judgment. Or I like this taste, but I don't like that taste. This food's good, but that food. All these judgments that we make, but that's not how things really are. And it's hard for us to understand that because we're so caught up in it. But I think the point of this is that, and it's just what I'm thinking, so I could well be wrong, but what occurs to me is that you don't need to get rid of these senses or negate them in any way, but you need to purify them, like turn it round. It's very hard to explain, even just. Yeah, I think that's the best way I can do it for now. Anyway, is that there's nothing intrinsically bad about them. They just have to be used in a different way, and they have that. It's like when we say in the opening prayers, about samsara and nirvana being one. That you don't have to get rid of samsara and then you go to some other place called nirvana. It's in samsara. It's one and the same thing, but with a different view. Something like that. I don't know. It needs a lot of looking into. So connecting it with the proper time is a great ornament to that. So it's not something you can just say, oh, it's like this, and they think that's it because you've read it somewhere, or you read, maybe you've read Milarepa and he's expressed it in some way, and you've said, oh, so that's how it is. But that's not connected to the proper time, your time, the time that you've realised it. I think that's what's meant by that. Connecting it to the proper time, when it's right for you, when you've sussed it out, That's when you can talk about it from an informed point of view, because you've experienced it. Otherwise, we are, like we are right now, kind of theorizing about it. It might be this, it might be that, I think it could be. But I mean, I'm not there yet. So, we have to start with where we are. But it's okay to look and to think about these things, and then we have at least some idea of where we might be going wrong, or where we might be okay, and how to proceed. So he's talking to us as well as Rechungpa, The arising of the experience of bliss, emptiness, is that not the point of the whispered lineage instructions? Connecting it with the 4 abhishekas is a great ornament to that. So, in the state of bliss emptiness, the arising of the state of bliss emptiness, which is one of realization, blissful, seeing it, experiencing emptiness, not just saying it or talking about it, but actually experiencing the emptiness of all things, the understanding of it, brings great bliss. And is that not the point of the whispered lineage, the Kagyu lineage instruction? Surely that's the point of it, being there. Connecting it with the 4 abhishekas, the 4 empowerments, is a great ornament to that. So when you're doing practices and you take empowerments, so you connect with the empowerments for body, speech, mind, and all of them together. Those are, putting it extremely briefly, the 4 empowerments. But the 4 empowerments, you're receiving them from the Guru. So it's like you're connecting with that. The body of the Guru, the mind, the speech of the Guru, the mind of the Guru, and the truth of the Guru, the body of truth of the Guru. All of them together. So those are the empowerments which we take when we go to an empowerment, and we don't really get it, but that's what's supposed to be happening. Or when you're doing your own practice, or you're doing your Guru Yoga, that's where you need to be putting that emphasis and opening to that. That then becomes a great ornament. Differentiating clear appearance and emptiness. Is that not called the stages of the path? Connecting it with the path's signs is a great ornament to that. I think, differentiating clear appearance and emptiness. This really requires a lot of study, and it's up to you to spend time with it, because if we're just going through it fairly quickly, I feel like we're not really doing it justice. But I'm just trying to put a few maybe clues as to what it might mean, but it's for you to look into. That's the point of the whole course, really. So differentiating clear appearance and emptiness, is that not cool? The stages of the path. So again, we're talking about stages of the path. It's not like 1 minute you're not enlightened, the next minute you're enlightened. There are stages that can take many, many lifetimes. And even if you are with a type of person who can, like Milarepa, who can do this in 1 lifetime, look what he had to do. So we're not just going to sit here and say, oh yeah, that's how it is. That's not going to happen, So we're going to take many lifetimes, probably, Differentiating clear appearance and emptiness. I think emptiness means empty of inherent existence. It's one of the meanings of emptiness, that everything is not independent, everything depends on everything else, so that you can say it's empty of of independence, everything is reliant on everything else. And we can look into this in everything. And yet things appear. So this is where our study should be, And our realization of that, to the extent that we realize that, these are stages on the path. And it's not something that you can just say is like that. It's the stages of bodhisattva realization. So it's way, but you start where you are. Connecting it with the path signs is a great ornament to that. So you need to make that connection, and it has to be based on where you're at. Where we're at, that's what it's all about. You need to bear in mind who he's talking to all the time here, because it's not just, the villagers of so-and-so that, maybe more our level. Carrying one's mind to the point of exhaustion. Is that not called Buddhahood in one life? So yes, that's exactly what he's talking about here. Connecting with the four kayas is a great ornament to that. So he's saying, he carried his mind to the point of exhaustion. I don't think we're quite there yet, are we? Not quite. So is that not called Buddhahood in one life? Connecting it with the four kayas is a great ornament to that. So again, when you connect it with the four kayas of the guru, of your guru, whoever that guru is, with the body, speech, mind, and altogether-ness of them, which is, the Nirmanakaya, the Dharmakaya. It has many levels of meaning. And connecting with those four bodies of the guru is a great ornament to that, when you've carried your mind to the point of exhaustion and achieved Buddhahood in one lifetime. One who has scripture, logic, and the Upadeshas, is that not called the guru who holds a lineage? Being connected with compassion is the guru's great ornament. So now he's talking about the guru, one who has scripture, logic, and the Upadeshas, pith instruction, the pith instructions of the gurus, which can only be given to someone who is able to receive those, because they're very short, very concise, and you need to be just at the right point where that's going to sink in and bring you on to the next level. So being connected with compassion is the guru's great ornament. So the guru is compassion, and he connects his pupil with compassion. When the pupil is ready for that, that's what happens. So the guru is pure compassion. Faithful ones who have great compassion are those not called students who are suitable vessels. Connecting them with devotion is a great ornament to that. So now it's talking about the students. So faithful students, faithful ones who already have a lot of great compassion. So they're already not just ordinary sort of thing, they're already evolved. Are those not called students who are suitable vessels? So we're talking suitable vessels for the Upadeshas, for the pith instructions. Otherwise it's, Connecting them with devotion is a great ornament to that. So it's through their devotion to the guru that they connect. That's like plugging in. And then the devotion is like the electricity, sort of, the energy of devotion that opens everything up and allows that transmission to really happen. One gains resolution about the mind through the view. So we need to have the view in order to really resolve what the mind is, how it is. Meditation then takes this and brings it to experience. So we gain resolution about the mind because we've got the right view, and then we meditate, and that brings it into our experience, into our personal experience. We don't just see it or understand it intellectually, we experience it, we taste it. Through conduct, one brings it to its completion. So actions speak louder than words, don't they? We see how people are through the way they act, their conduct. That brings it to its completion. Its actualization is the four kayas. Body, speech, and mind, and altogether of the guru. The result is asserted in terms of mind, and realization is seeing it all comes down to one thing. So all of this and that and the other, it all comes down to that one thing, the mind, and because everything is within the mind. So that's a superficial look at it. Yeah. When he had sung this, everyone's doubts were completely cut. He cut through all their doubts, the disciples' doubts. And then the Jetsun, Milarepa, said to Rechungpa, if you want the very essence of Dharma, this is what you need. Then he sang this song of realization. So basically, the previous song was kind of just showing them the way about, that it's not about just talking big and about, Milarepa or whoever, and their way, you need to connect it to yourself. And so he was emphasizing that and just sort of bringing them to the right level of understanding. Everything he does is to help them. So first he needs to just bring them down a peg or two, and they're still at a very high level for us to come. But they still did need to be brought down a peg or two for their own good, so that they can get it, be real. So now he's going to, if you want the very essence of the Dharma, this is what you need. And he sang this song of realization. Awareness holding disciple son, listen here. If you want to practice Dharma, this is what you need. The embodiment of the Buddhas of the 3 times, the Guru who develops all qualities, you must have confidence, is the Dharmakaya. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? The instructions spoken from the Guru's mouth are the supreme medicine for vanquishing the 5 poisons. You must have confidence that they are Amrita. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? With the liberating, wrathful, enlightened activity that is part of the Guru's conduct, you must have confidence the Guru is a Nirmanakaya. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? These thoughts and memories that move in the mind, though they appear to arise, they are unarisen and free of base or root. You must have confidence in undistracted mindfulness. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? These ocean waves of the poisons and ignorance are like a rope tying wood that's consumed by fire. You must have confidence that there is nothing that binds you. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? The bliss of the devas in the desire realm is like the change of the 4 different seasons. You must have confidence that samsara has no comfort. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? All composite phenomena are impermanent, like lightning in the sky, like a waterfall or burning incense, You must have confidence that this life has no leisure. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? It is certain that everyone will die. Since no one remains and all pass away, you must have confidence in attaining deathlessness. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? So, first of all, he starts off with awareness holding disciple son. Listen here. So he's saying you have some awareness. You're not totally dullard or something. Awareness holding disciple son. Those are very good things he's saying here. You have awareness. You're a disciple. You're like my son. Listen here. If you want to practice the Dharma, this is what you need. The embodiment of the Buddhas of the 3 times, the Guru who develops all qualities, you must have confidence, is the Dharmakaya. So the Guru is the Dharmakaya, that's what that means, isn't it? He or she embodies the Buddha of the 3 times. Past, present and future. The Guru is that Buddha. And he or she develops all qualities. You must have confidence that person is the Dharmakaya, is the truth, the body of truth. So it's easy to say, but do you have certainty, Rechungpa? Do we have certainty in that? Do we absolutely know for absolute certain? The instructions spoken from the Guru's mouth are the supreme medicine for vanquishing the 5 poisons. You must have confidence that they are Amrita. Amrita is like the food of the gods, or the holy food, if you like. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? So it's the supreme medicine for vanquishing the poisons of ignorance and jealousy and pride and all of the 5 poisons. How do they vanquish? By the instructions that the Guru gives. That's how. They are the medicine that get rid of the poison, or turn the poisons into medicine in a way. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? I know you said it, I know you read it, but are you certain? With the liberating, wrathful, enlightened activity that is part of the Guru's conduct, you must have confidence the Guru is a Nirmanakaya. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? So sometimes the Guru's activity will be wrathful. Why? Because that's what you need. Liberating wrathful activities, not somebody getting angry with you or being angry for the sake of it or getting, upset in any way. This is what you need at that time. So it's not always nicey-nicey. Sometimes you need the stick, not the carrot. So this is part of the Guru's conduct. So when this happens, you must have confidence that the Guru is a Nirmanakaya. That's the embodiment, the incarnation of Buddha. And Nirmanakaya is a Buddha's body that we can see. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? And we know from a lot of the stories that happen that it wavers, doesn't it? Sometimes I think it's a bit more like this, and he'll argue the toss, because he's not fully certain yet. These thoughts and memories that move in the mind, though they appear to arise, they are unarisen and free of base or root. You must have confidence in undistracted mindfulness. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? So, when we meditate, we have thoughts, we have memories, and they seem to have an appearance, and they look like they're something, there's something there. but they're not actually existing. They don't exist in any way. There's an appearance, you could say, but they're not actually anything that you could say is there, and therefore they're free of base or root. And if they were real, then where have they gone? If they're there, then they're not there. That's because they're not really ever there. They don't have a basis for. It's just an appearance. And as long as we have, they can come and go, it doesn't matter. As long as we have undistracted mindfulness, we know that there's no reality there. It's only when we get swept in and involved with them that they become real to us, and then we get, distracted and just taken off, and there's no meditation. So we get fooled again and again and again and again. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? These ocean waves of the poisons and ignorance, these appearances of these thoughts and things, these ocean waves, they come like waves and then they go and they come and they go. But they're like a rope tying wood. So if you imagine your poisons of ignorance, of pride or jealousy or whatever is uppermost, and it's like a rope that's tying wood that's being consumed by fire. So they have this appearance that they're tying something, and you feel like, help, can't get out, but they're not really there. So you need to have confidence that there is nothing there that binds you. There was nothing ever there. The binding of your thoughts, that sort of, I can never get free of my thoughts and this, that, there's actually nothing there. It's like wood that's consumed by fire. We think that it's happening, but it's not actually happening. You so have confidence that there is nothing that binds you except your own misunderstanding. So when that misunderstanding is seen through and there is understanding, there's no wood, there's no fire, there's no thought, there's no nothing. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? The bliss of the devas in the desire realm is that the bliss of the God realm, really, is like the change of the 4 different seasons. You must have confidence that samsara has no comfort. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? So we're looking at the devas, the God realm. Everything looks really lovely in the God realm. You get everything you want. It's all beautiful. You have lovely flowers and da-da-da. So. But it's like the change of the 4 different seasons. So it might have an appearance of looking everything is in the garden wonderful, but then it all changes and then it all just becomes like winter and everything dies. And so it's just a changing mirage, really. And it's still part of samsara. And although it may have some sort of pleasures for some time, it eventually falls, and that's the pain of the God realm. Is that their pain is worse in a way because they've been up high and then they've got further to fall. So even the God realm, don't be fooled into thinking that's anything other than suffering. It's samsara. It has no comfort. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? All composite phenomena are impermanent. This is all teachings on impermanence, this part now. So we can look at this as part of, the 4 foundations. In fact, the 4 foundations apply to all of it, but it's kind of evolving. All composite phenomena are impermanent, like lightning in the sky, or like a waterfall, or burning incense. You must have confidence that this life has no leisure. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? Why is he saying this? Because Rechungpa still gets hooked in from time to time, So he's just really bringing it home. You must have confidence that this life has no leisure. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? It is certain that everyone will die. Since no one remains and all pass away, you must have confidence in attaining deathlessness. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? So he's just said that everyone will die, no one remains, everyone passes away. You must have confidence in attaining deathlessness. So that would seem to be a contradiction in terms, doesn't it? Saying you're going to die, but you should attain deathlessness. So we need to look at what is that deathlessness then? He's not saying that your body isn't going to die or that you may have many lifetimes. So what is this confidence in attaining deathlessness? Deathlessness is the changeless nature that is your true nature, that is Buddhahood, that doesn't change. That's the one thing that doesn't change, because that's how it is. So that's the changeless nature. When it's you're perfected. Of course, your body will die, but your mind has attained its true nature. It's not attained it, it's realized its true nature. That's the deathless state. There's nothing more to learn, because you are it, it's you. There's nothing you can even say about it. Whatever I say about it will not be correct. But we can call it the changeless nature. Do you have certainty in this, Rechungpa? So anyway, he was singing this song not only to Rechungpa, but to all the disciples, but predominantly Rechungpa, but the others were all listening as well. So after that, all of the disciples developed deep certainty. And then after some time, the students of Nyanang, the people of Nyanang, invited Rechungpa to come and receive some offerings. And the Jetsun gave him permission to go there for half a month. And the other Repas also went to the village to beg for alms. So they all developed certainty, and then they all scattered. Most of them to beg for alms. But it says here that Rechungpa had been invited by the people of Nyanang to come and receive some offerings in return for teachings. So remember here that, and there are songs about this aspect, that Rechungpa was young, very good looking, very attractive, quite highly developed, knew how to read the scriptures, very popular. Milarepa, not so much with the ordinary people. He was hard to understand. First of all, he was older. He was not caring about his appearance at all. I mean, you could say like crazy wisdom or something. You're just not caring about the conventions of the day. A lot of people thought he was a little bit, a lot of people would have thought like that. Whereas, Rechungpa, who wouldn't want this nice young man in our home, and he can teach us something and we'll give him some offerings. And so that's what Milarepa said, okay, well, you can go for half a month, 2 weeks. And then they went, and then the other Repas also went to the village for alms. Now, there's a bit coming up that will very amply illustrate what I just said, and I've not put it down as a song, but I will read through it as narrative, because then that will give you an idea of why was Rechungpa the popular one, why Milarepa was sort of not, to some people, of course to other people he was the ultimate, but depending what level they were at. So I'll just fairly quickly read through this bit. So, in the meantime, Seze, Kuchuk, and other benefactors and students from Drin came to meet Milarepa. So a bunch of other people came to meet. When they saw the Jetsun sitting loosely dressed and fully exposed, the students did not dare to come near him. He didn't care what was showing, you know. He's got his robe on, he's just sitting there in bliss, you know. Says they went to place some clothes on him. Then the students gathered round. They said, "We worldly people are shocked and embarrassed to see the Jetsun completely exposed like that. We ask you to please, out of compassion for us, cover your private parts, at least." Then the Jetsun, ripping up his clothes, became completely naked. He rose up, he stood up and sang this song of realization. Always travelling around in human domains, I've naturally forgotten my own native land. We don't have this song here. I've forgotten my own native land. Spending much time with the noble Lord, meaning his teacher. I've naturally forgotten my friends, Marpa. I've naturally forgotten my friends and relatives. Striving in practicing the genuine Dharma, I've naturally forgotten the Dharma of ordinary men. Roaming alone in mountain retreats, I've naturally forgotten all worldly distractions. Watching the monkeys and the langurs play, I've naturally forgotten all about calves and sheep. Holding on to the sharp flint and steel, I've naturally forgotten all about household affairs. He's just got a flint and steel to help him cook or cut something up. He's not got a house or any kitchen implements other than that. Remaining without without master and servant, I've naturally forgotten about polite, pleasant speech. Staying alone, completely relaxed, I've naturally forgotten all about embarrassment. Going with whatever arises in the mind, I've naturally forgotten all about modesty. With Chandali, the heat of Tumo, blazing within my body, I've naturally forgotten all about wearing clothes. It doesn't even enter my head. Meditating in non-conceptual wisdom, I've naturally forgotten all my concepts. Meditating in the union of luminosity, I've forgotten about all elaborations. These 12 things that I've forgotten are the way of this yogi here. Students, you should all do the same. I've released the knot of perceiver and perceived. Why should I have a need to follow your customs? One doesn't attain enlightenment through artifice. The Dharma of you people is too hard to practice. I will remain alone and relaxed. I won't be deceitful or lie about being embarrassed. I don't know how to do contrived conduct. You can keep it. He didn't say that bit, I'm just saying that bit. So thus he sang, and the students showed him great respect and reverence. Then they departed. I mean, you know, we could only take so much. Meanwhile, although Rechungpa had spent only a day at each of the villagers' houses, he'd been going for quite a long time. I mean, I don't know how many villages there were, but it sounds like it was more than the 2 weeks that Milarepa suggested or told, in fact. When he came back to see the Jetsun, the entryway to the cave was closed. Rechungpa thought, "Ooh, is he unhappy with me because I spent too long?" Then he offered the Guru this song, and that's not on here either. So I'll just say it. This is Rechumpa's song to Milarepa, who he thinks is in the cave. There is no reference point in the innate true Dharma. If there is a reference point, then it is not innate. In the great perfection, there is no bias. If there is a bias, it's not the great perfection. Mahamudra has nothing to block or create. If there's blocking or creating, it's not Mahamudra. In the experience of great bliss, clarity is not obscured. If clarity is obscured, it's not the great bliss. In the Great Middle Way, nothing can be identified. If there's identification, it is not the middle way. I, Rechungpa, travelled around the town. Is the Father Jetsun happy and well? Well, then the Jetsun sang this song of realization from atop the cave entrance. So he wasn't even in the cave, he was standing on top of it. Apart from mind, there is no Buddha. There is no quicker path than the nadis and pranas. There's no other friend than the three precious refuges. There is no more excellent experience than bliss and emptiness. There is no one kinder than the genuine Lord. Beings should take him to their crown and put into practice the unerring instructions. This is how to develop certainty in your being. If you gain realization within yourself, then the lineage instructions have been received. When you have determined your own mind, signs of experience and confidence will quickly arise. When loving kindness has arisen in the mind, then sentient beings are accepted with compassion. When one sees the Buddha Guru, blessings are naturally received. I've put a few lines together here. If you understand the meaning, there's Dharma there. If you didn't understand, it's just a little ditty. Son, Rechungpa, are you well? This old father here is feeling quite fine. And we can contrast the language that, if you remember, the way Rechungpa spoke was quite sort of highfalutin, wasn't it? If there's this, there's not. If there's the great perfection, then there's no bias. If there's a bias, it's not the great perfection. It's like he's pontificating, basically, isn't he? And then Rechungpa, Milarepa answers him with words that are very easily understood. There's the odd dharma or word in Sanskrit or something, but basically they're very understandable words. He's not using any kind of jargon or talking about, if there's the great perfection and it's not the great perfection, if there's no bias, blah, blah, blah. It's all sort of much more simply expressed. Apart from the mind, there is no Buddha. That's where you should be looking. There is no quicker path than the nadis and pranas, your breath, your channels in your body. Get real, Rechungpa. It's, you look within. There's no other friend than the three precious refuges. The Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. There's no more excellent experience than bliss and emptiness. There is no one kinder than the genuine Lord, your teacher, the one who's the most kind to you. Beings should take him to their crown. Whoever's their root lama, they should treasure that person because that person is bringing them to realization. And put into practice the unerring instructions. The instructions from your guru are not mistaken, so put them into practice. If you don't, what is the point of having them? This is how to develop certainty in your being. Not sort of talking about Mahamudra like you know something, or, well, it can't be that because it's not this. It's like, refuting this and that without really meaning anything. If you gain realization within yourself, then the lineage instructions have been received. It's not about sounding learned or something, or erudite, It's not about that. You need to gain realization within yourself, and that's how to receive the lineage instructions. When you have determined your own mind, when you know your own mind, signs of experience and confidence will quickly arise. That will be natural as a result of your understanding, not about reading more books and things. When loving kindness has arisen in the mind, then sentient beings are accepted with compassion. So this loving kindness arises naturally in your mind because of your understanding of how things are. And then that makes it what's the word for it? It causes compassion to arise because of your understanding. So it's a natural progression. You don't have to try and be compassionate. You are compassionate because of what you understand and how you see things. When one sees the Buddha Guru, blessings are naturally received. When one sees it, doesn't just mean to say, when you see them with your eyes, and then that's that person, and that he's called the Buddha Guru. You see them as the Buddha. That Guru is the Buddha. There's no difference. And then the blessings are naturally received. You don't have to make an appointment. Excuse me, can I have some blessings, please? Or, give them some katas and offerings and things like that. It's not like that. Not to say you shouldn't give offerings or anything, but it's when we see that Guru as Buddha, then it's boom, everything's open. The blessings were already there anyway. Now we can receive them. I put a few lines together here. I mean, it's just simple stuff, my stuff. It doesn't sound as posh as yours. If you understand the meaning, there's Dharma there. If you didn't, then it's just a little ditty. Son Rechungpa, are you well? This old father here is feeling quite fine. And then with that, he opened up the cave and they went inside. I was just kidding around just now, he says. Milarepa says, I was just kidding around. But I can see that you still have great attachment to the 8 worldly concerns. You must abandon them and meditate in the mountains. So we've already, I think in the last session, we went into the 8 worldly concerns, or was it the one before? Anyway, the ones about praise and blame and wanting this and that, and fame and fortune, and then their opposite. So he sees that Rechungpa is still involved with that. It's still in his mind. He still likes this, he doesn't like that. So he can see that he's still involved with the 8 worldly concerns, and he said, you must abandon them and go to mountains and meditate. That's what you really need. And then we come to the next song of realization. So forget about blame and praise and gain and loss and all of that stuff. Go to the mountains, away from temptation and distractions. The blessings of the Lord Guru lie within the mountains. Grant your blessing that I stay in mountain retreats. O Rechungpa, you fortunate one, focus your senses and listen to my song. When staying in isolated mountain retreats, don't think of the worldly things. Don't think of the worldly things your relatives say. If you do, then old enemies will be revived. When meditating near the Guru, don't think of a reward for your accumulated merit. If you do, then an army of bad conduct will ensue. When offering tormas to the Bhuta spirits, don't think of hoarding those balls of torma. If you do, then you too will become such a spirit. When meditating with undistracted concentration, don't take time to meet with your friends. If you do, then those friends will kill your spiritual practice. When you have perseverance in hardship, don't think of meat and beer and delicious food. If you do, then you'll be born as a hungry ghost. When meditating on the whispered lineage's path of means, don't think like students learning for intellectual knowledge. If you do, you'll enter an erring path. When you're staying in isolated mountains, don't think of leaving to engage in activities. If you do, then negative mind states will quickly arise. Son, with perseverance, finish the result with Dharma. With endurance, abandon samsara's suffering. Son, we're connected through aspiration. May your father's realization arise within you. The realization of all appearances as Dharmakaya, may it be perfected in the experience of my son. So we see how kind and how fortunate Rechungpa is. He says here, that, "Oh Rechungpa, you fortunate one." First of all, he says, "The blessings of the Guru lie within the mountains. Grant your blessings that I stay in mountain retreats." In that way, he's also talking to Malpa, his teacher, and asking for his blessings that he, Milarepa, will stay in mountain retreats. "Oh Rechungpa, you fortunate one, focus your senses, listen to my song. When staying in isolated mountain retreats, don't think of the worldly things your relatives say. You know, if you do, then old enemies will be revived." So, you know, our relatives, you know, they're not the ones to be listening to if you want to gain enlightenment. If our relatives were enlightened, then they would be the ones to listen to. But they're not. So it doesn't mean to say you should ignore them or not be kind to them or anything like that. But when you're in an isolated mountain, you don't want to be revisiting, well, he said that and she said that, and then they had an argument, and then, oh, I should have done. You know, that's just old enemies will be revived, just the usual judgments of how we, you know, when we lie awake at night and how we say, oh, if only I hadn't have said this to them, and then my mother said this, my daughter said that, my son said this, and then and all the usual family stuff that we're engaged in. That's not what you need when you're on retreat. And if you do then it's like all these old enemies of worldly stuff is going to be revived. That's not going to get you there. That's just more illusion. When meditating near the Guru, don't think of a reward for your accumulated merit. If you do, then an army of bad conduct will ensue. So when you're meditating near the Guru, and you think, oh, I'm so good, I'm meditating with my Guru, I'm so really already abandoned this, that, and the other, and I have so much merit from this, and then that's just going to cut any merit that you may have had. And an army of bad conduct it'll just make you have bad conduct, and you'll start behaving in proud and be caught back up in the illusory, deluded ways of being. So you need to cut that in the bud, nip it in the bud. When offering tormas to the bhutas, the spirits, don't think of hoarding those balls of torma. If you do, then you too will become such a spirit. So, in certain practices, we make tormas, or we make even just little rilbu, and then we offer them to the spirits, or to the, for them to go away, or whatever, or to come here, or whatever it might be. But don't hoard them. Oh, well, that's quite nice, that dharma. Just save some for later. Eat it, Or if you're offering something nice, and you put a bit away for yourself, Ooh, that's not, and then you'll become like a hungry spirit. When meditating with undistracted concentration, don't take time off to meet with your friends. If you do, then those friends will kill your spiritual practice. The two are not compatible. If you're meditating with undistracted concentration, then that's what you should be doing. Well, just nip out and have a coffee with a friend or something. That would be our way. But maybe a glass of I don't know, beer. They had to be, didn't they? Not glasses, though, probably. In other words, socializing with your friends is not compatible with becoming enlightened. When you have perseverance in hardship, don't think of meat, beer, and delicious food. If you do, then you'll be born as a hungry ghost. So he's saying all this because he's advised Rechungpa to go to the mountains and be on retreat. So in those circumstances, you shouldn't be thinking of beer and meat and this and that, delicious food, because if that's it, then you're wasting your time. It's not retreat really, is it? You're just still in the world. Even your mind's still in the world. Even when your body's in the mountains, the mind's still in the world. Worldliness. So if you do, you'll be born as a hungry ghost. When meditating on the whispered lineage's path of means, don't think like students yearning for intellectual knowledge. If you do, you'll enter an erring path, a mistaken path. So when meditating on the whispered lineage, is the Kagyu lineage, path of means the skillful means of the path. So then if you've got that, then don't be yearning for intellectual knowledge. When you have something so precious, don't sort of sell your diamond for a glass bead. It's a bit like that, you know. And then you just end up with all your concepts and mistaken ways. When you're staying in isolated mountains, don't think of leaving to engage in activities. If you do, then negative mind states will quickly arise. I think that doesn't really need further explanation. It's obvious what he means there, isn't it? In an isolated mountain, stay there. Don't be thinking of engaging in loads of activities and busyness. Son, with perseverance, finish the result with Dharma. Get the result with Dharma. With endurance, abandon samsara's suffering. You need perseverance, you need endurance, not just you do it for 5 minutes or 5 days or so, 5 weeks and then that's it. You need to have perseverance, you need to have endurance. Here in Leith we should have perseverance. This is the motto of Leith. But for sure we need to develop perseverance and endurance. Because we might not be comfortable. We might be he's in a cave somewhere. He probably won't be in a nice, comfortable meditation room, With endurance, abandon samsara's suffering, because it is all suffering. All the things that you think are all nice and are all suffering. Son, we are connected through aspiration. You want to become enlightened? I want you to become enlightened. We both aspire to the same thing. May your Father's, i.e. my realization, arise within you. That's what I want for you. This realization of all appearances as Dharmakaya. All appearances are Dharmakaya, the body of truth. May it be perfected in the experience of my son. He wants the very, very best, and he tells it like it is. It's very moving, he relates to him like father and son. And he wants this realization that he himself has perfected for his son. That's the best, the only worthwhile gift he can give him. Everything else is just worldly stuff. This song touched him deeply, and Rechungpa prostrated to the Jetsun. And then he offered this song to him. So now we have a song from Rechungpa, which we have got, because this one's worthwhile. Not that the other ones didn't have something worthwhile, but this shows you how the teaching of Milarepa has affected Rechungpa. And so it's spoken not from trying to impress Milarepa, which is what he was trying to do previously and show off a bit and say, oh, this is what I realise. No, this is coming from a place of truth. So he offers this song, and this is the last song of this session, which I think we'll leave the last word with Rechungpa, since it's about him. So Rechungpa says, through the Father Guru's kindness, I have practiced the Dharma. I left my good and loving parents behind and relinquished my homeland, so hard to relinquish. Yet I still have feelings of longing for my friends. I put up hoarding food, wealth and clothes. I have no conditions for avarice or non-virtue. With hardship and rasayana, I meditated in caves, but desire for gathering and gaining continues on. For meeting, I have met with an actual siddha. For obtaining, I've obtained the whispered lineage's instructions. For meditation, I meditate with undistracted diligence. Yet I still desire to encounter and hear teachings. For deeds, I do my Father's service. For practice, I practice toward Buddhahood in one life. For staying, I stay in mountain retreats. Yet I still have a mind of doer and deed. Lord Vajradhara, with your unmoving essence, grant your blessing that these thoughts may be transformed. So you see, that has a very different tone to the previous responses that Rechungpa had. Straight away in the first line he says, it's through the Father's Guru's kindness that I practice the Dharma. Without him, I didn't know the Dharma. It's through the Father Guru's kindness that I practice the Dharma. And he left his good and loving parents behind and relinquished his homeland, so hard to relinquish. So he's done all this. But he still has feelings of longing for my friends. So he's getting a bit more real with himself. He knows what his shortcomings are. And he's admitting it. He's saying it. This is great progress. This is very important. He's not saying he's not done anything good. He's saying, he has already done this and this and this, and that was a start. You could say, he relinquished his homeland. But he still has feelings and longing for my friends. I put off hoarding food, wealth and clothes, which is what he used to do. He used to, accumulate food and wealth and nice clothes. So he's put off doing all that. And he says, I have no conditions for avarice or non-virtue. I'm not greedy, and I don't have the conditions for being unvirtuous. I'm doing a virtuous activity, and it's hard, with hardship. And rasayana, I meditated in caves. So rasayana, I think it's something like a kind of spiritual food, like the essence of food. It's the way that Milarepa was able to exist for a long time without any bodily food, any normal food. And it's like it's existing on another plane, basically. But I think also sometimes it can involve a pebble or a flower or something like that you can extract the essence from. Or it could be given, for example, in Milarepa's case, he was served by the dakinis, who, to our eyes, we don't even see them. So there's spiritual food, let's just call it, or the essence of air or whatever. So that's called rasayana. So with hardship and rasayana, meaning he had very little ordinary food, I meditated in caves. But desire for gathering and gaining continues on. He still wants more. He still has to own that that's with him still. For meeting, I have met with an actual siddha. Milarepa is a siddha. He's a great master. For obtaining, I've obtained the whispered lineage instructions. He's got the instructions of the Kagyu lineage. What more could he want? For meditation, I meditate with undistracted diligence. I'm able to do that. Yet, I still desire to encounter and hear teachings. Now, that's not such a bad thing, is it? You want to hear the teachings. But it's still a desire, it's a wanting something, even if it's a good thing. There's a little bit of clinging there. For deeds, I do my Father's service. I serve Milarepa in whatever way I can. For practice, I practice towards Buddhahood in one life. So we know that that entails great sacrifice and a lot of endurance and perseverance and, focus. For staying, I stay in mountain retreats. I still have a mind of doer and deed. So even though I'm doing all these things, but I still think, I am doing that. That's still with me. But it sounds like he knows that he's got to go beyond that. I still have a mind of, I'm doing this, that's my deed, and the result I hope to get, that's still that mistaken way of thinking. But it's still, he's looking at it honestly, and he knows where he's done the right thing, and he's on the right path, but he's owning the fact that he's still not there yet. He's recognizing that. And you have to recognize that in order to then recognize your true nature. You have to see what's not quite right. And then Lord Vajradhara, he's addressing Milarepa as Vajradhara, as Dorji Chang, as the primordial Buddha. Lord Vajradhara, with your unmoving essence, your changeless nature, grant your blessing that these thoughts may be transformed. So he's, yearning, he's begging, his teacher, who he's addressing as the primordial Buddha, to help him, And when Rechungpa had sung this, the Jetsun gave Rechungpa many pieces of advice, and his realization increased greatly. So, there are more songs about Rechungpa. It does go on, but that's for you to explore, because otherwise we'll be here for a lot longer than 2 hours. So I think, I wanted to end it on a song from Rechungpa, because then it shows how much he's changed in his understanding from, the previous sessions that we did and this session. And it's getting finer and finer and finer. And then it becomes more and more heartfelt. He stopped trying to be so talk big words and impress Milarepa. He's impressing him by being honest. And so then Milarepa gives him more advice, which we don't go into here, but you can rest assured that it's based on meditation. And that we can do. So let's. And I think if we I'm not going to be giving any kind of guidance, because we already had more guidance than we can even accommodate. So let's just have the words of Milarepa and also Rechungpa. We'll sort of sit with them, absorb them, taste them. So, straighten up posture. Keep your eyes a little bit open, then you won't get drowsy. I need to focus. Oops, sorry. And remember what he said about the breath and the channels, so breathing normally, but with a bit more awareness. And feeling the breath come in through your nostrils and down into your lungs, your diaphragm, your belly. Breathing fully, inhaling fully, exhaling fully. You might want to internally count 21 breaths. By that I mean one in-breath and one out-breath. And allow the mind to settle as you breathe with a bit more awareness and go deeper. Deeper from the sort of superficial level of your mind. And allow your mind to settle in the depth of understanding. And experience as it is. Oh, that's quite short, but we have come to the end of the session. So obviously when you're meditating at home, you better be doing more than that, otherwise I think it's a bit pointless looking at all these wonderful words if we don't meditate and put them into practice and really digest them, so understand them as far as you can with your mind. But until you've experienced it, like, put yourself in Rechumpa's place, basically. He's talking to us as well as Rechungpa. So you've got four. The songs are not particularly long, so the 4 songs of Milarepa, and then the last one, which is the one of Rechungpa, which I think if you did one a week, of say, the first 3 in 1 week, 1 week, 1 week, and then Rechungpa and Milarepa in 1 week, because Rechumpa's one is quite small and it's in response, and then, so it's quite nice to let him have the last word for this, for now. So, and then the next session we'll start with his Milarepa's other heart son, which is Gampopa. But let's not jump ahead. We'll dedicate the merit of our practice and to share it with all sentient beings. Oh, by this merit may I obtain omniscience, defeat the enemy wrongdoing, and so free all beings from the ocean of samsara, with its stormy waves of birth, aging, sickness, and death. So, I hope you get something from these wonderful songs, and it really explore them, because there's only so much we can do in one session, and it's up to us to study them and to take them on board in our life. That's really the point of them, is to practice them as well as we can, and then we progress, and then we are not just reading Milarepa, we're aligning ourselves with Milarepa. Okay, so until such time as I see you again, go well and be happy and enjoy yourself.